If you don't like it here, you can leave. My sister snapped at me in my own apartment, where she and her family had been freeloading for weeks, where I paid every single bill, babysat her kids without pay, and had just been forced to sleep in a hotel. The next morning, I started packing their things. My name is Jessica, and this is how I learned that sometimes you have to choose yourself over family. I'm 35 years old, and I own a small but successful interior design firm in downtown Chicago. We specialize in high-end residential projects, designing everything from concept to completion. I rent a modest office space in the Loop where my 3 talented designers work. But I've always preferred working from home. My days are spent traveling between construction sites, meeting with contractors, managing difficult clients, and turning their visions into reality. My apartment isn't just where I live, it's my creative sanctuary and business headquarters. 6 months ago, I finally achieved what I'd been working toward for 15 years. I bought my own place, a stunning 3-bedroom condo in a new development in Lincoln Park, one of Chicago's most desirable neighborhoods. The real prize ground floor with private patio access, practically unheard of in the city. I designed every single inch of it myself, pouring my heart and professional expertise into every decision. Pure Scandinavian minimalism became my philosophy. Soft grays blended with warm whites. Natural wood accents brought warmth without clutter. Nothing unnecessary, everything intentional. Clean lines, purposeful spaces, strategic lighting. After 15 long years of cramped studio apartments, nightmare roommates, and living in spaces I couldn't truly make my own, this condo represented everything I'd worked for. My family is small but closer so, I thought. My parents, Robert and Linda, are both in their mid-60s. Dad retired last year from his job as an accountant, and Mom left her position as an elementary school teacher 2 years ago. They live in a modest 2-bedroom ranch house in Des Plaines, about 40 minutes northwest of the city. Then there's my older sister, Victoria. Everyone calls her Vicky. She's 38, married to Brian, and they have 2 children. Mason, who's 11 and sharp as a tack, and Emma, who just turned 6 and still believes in magic. Vicky works part-time as a sales associate at Nordstrom Rack in Schaumburg, has for years, never really advancing or seeking anything more. Brian manages a sales team for a telecommunications company downtown. Decent job, decent salary. Vicky and I have always gotten along. Though we've never been particularly close, she's always been the one who needed help borrowing money, asking for favors, calling when things fell apart. I'm the one who had my life together. Or at least that's what everyone thought. Different priority, different lives, different approaches to responsibility. Just a week before everything imploded, I threw my housewarming party. It was absolutely perfect. About 40 guests mingled through my beautiful space, professional catering, signature cocktails, a playlist I'd spent weeks perfecting. Everyone raved about the design colleagues, clients, friends. My parents drove in from Des Plaines, proud smiles on their faces as they toured each room. Vicky brought her whole crew. Even the kids behaved beautifully that night. Everyone seemed genuinely happy for me. I remember thinking, standing on my patio with a glass of wine, watching the sunset, I finally made it. This is what success feels like. I had no idea what was coming. Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m. I was at my kitchen counter, laptop open, reviewing fabric samples for a client's master bedroom. My phone rang. Vicky's name flashed on the screen. Jess. Hey, I need to ask you something. Kind of urgent. My stomach immediately tightened. I knew that tone, the one that meant she needed something. What's going on? So, our landlord just informed us yesterday that he's doing a major renovation on our entire building in Schaumburg. Like, completely gutting it, new plumbing, new electrical, everything. He's giving us 2 weeks to move out temporarily. Says it'll be at least a month. Maybe 6 weeks before we can move back in. I felt my peaceful morning evaporating like steam. Can't you stay with Mom and Dad? Are you serious? They have that tiny 2-bedroom ranch. Where would 4 people fit? Mason and Emma would be sharing a room with us. Plus, Brian's office is in the loop that would add literally 2 hours each way to his commute from Des Plaines. Your place is perfect. 3 bedrooms, right in Lincoln Park. Close to Brian's work and the kids' school. We'd only need a month. 6 weeks maximum. Every fiber of my being screamed no. Every instinct told me this was a terrible idea. I'd just gotten my space exactly how I wanted it. I was finally enjoying living alone. On my own terms, with my own schedule and my own peace. But this was my sister, my only sibling, family, and it was supposedly temporary. Okay, I heard myself say, already regretting the word, but only bring the absolute essentials. Everything else needs to go into storage, or at Mom and Dad's garage. Oh my God. Jess, thank you so much. You're literally saving our lives. I promise we won't be any trouble at all. You won't even know we're there. Those words would haunt me. 2 days later, Thursday afternoon, around 2 p.m., I watched from my living room window as a massive U-Haul truck, the 26-foot kind meant for entire households, pulled up outside my building. My heart sank immediately. I watched as Vicky and Brian opened the back. Boxes upon boxes upon boxes. Furniture, suitcases, plastic storage bins, a bike, lamps, even a microwave. For God's sake, for the next 2 hours, they made trip after trip, hauling load after load up to my 3rd-floor condo. By the time they'd finished, my minimalist living room, my carefully designed, perfectly balanced space looked like a warehouse. Cardboard towers blocked the windows. Suitcases lined the walls. Plastic bins obscured my beautiful cream-colored sofa. My coffee table had vanished beneath a mountain of their belongings. I stood in the doorway, speechless, watching my sanctuary disappear. Vicky, what the hell? I specifically said essentials only. She was unwrapping a decorative lamp she absolutely didn't need, not even looking at me. Yeah. Well, we tried. Mom and Dad's garage is completely packed to the ceiling with all their Christmas decorations and Dad's woodworking equipment. There's literally no room. And storage units. She laughed. Have you seen the prices? $300 a month for a tiny space? That's insane. Don't worry, we'll keep everything organized and neat. You won't even notice it. I was already noticing it. Very much. Where is everyone sleeping? I asked, dreading the answer but needing to hear it. Vicky exchanged a glance with Brian, who immediately became very interested in his phone. Well, we figured Brian and I would take the guest room. It has that really comfortable queen bed. Right? And the kids can share your master bedroom since it's so huge. That king bed is massive. They'll have plenty of room. And you've got that day bed in your office. You'll be totally comfortable there. It's actually kind of cozy. Let me be absolutely clear about what just happened. I was giving up my king-size bed and master suite, the room I designed with a custom closet system, blackout curtains, and the perfect morning light to her children. My guest room, which I'd furnished specifically for visiting clients and friends, was going to her and her husband, and I, the owner of this condo. The person paying the mortgage would be sleeping on a narrow daybed in my office, surrounded by work materials, with no door that locked properly. My perfectly planned sanctuary had just become a refugee camp, and I was the refugee. But I told myself it was temporary. Just a month, maybe 6 weeks. I could handle anything for a month and a half. I was so naive. The first few days were challenging, but still somewhat manageable. I kept reminding myself, temporary, temporary, temporary. Mason and Emma were good kids. Honestly, but they had energy that could power a small city. Every afternoon, they'd burst through the front door at 3, 4, 5 p.m. and immediately transform my peaceful space into a playground. Running laps around the furniture, yelling at each other about whose turn it was for the TV remote, playing games that somehow always involved screaming at maximum volume. Vicky worked part-time at Nordstrom Rack 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. shifts, 4 days a week. The schedule seemed perfect at first. She'd drop Mason and Emma at school around 7:45 in the morning. Head to work. Get off at 2:00. And could easily pick them up from their after-school program at 3:30. Except that's not what happened. Instead, she'd text me around 2:15, running some errands. Kids will take the bus to your place. You're home anyway, right? Or meeting Chelsea and Amanda for coffee. Be home by 5, or stopping at Target. You need a few things. Can you grab the kids? Every single day. This meant Mason and Emma would show up at my door at 3, 4, 5, and I'd become their unpaid babysitter while Vicky enjoyed her social life. Wednesday afternoon, day 6 of this arrangement. Things came to a head. I was on a Zoom call with Margaret Thorne, a notoriously difficult client from Lake Forest who was considering a $200 null kitchen renovation. She'd been on the fence for weeks, and this call was crucial. So, Jessica, I'm still not convinced about the marble backsplash. It seems impractical for Aunt Jessie. Mason burst through my office door without knocking, nearly knocking over my ring light. Emma won't stop touching my stuff. I could see Margaret's face on my screen, her expression shifting from interest to annoyance. Honey, I'm working, I whispered urgently, hitting mute. Can you please watch TV quietly? But Mom said you'd hang out with us after school. She said you'd take us to the park and maybe get ice cream. Aunt Jessie. I'm hungry. Emma appeared behind her brother, her voice taking on that pitiful tone. Kids master by age 3. My tummy really hurts. Margaret was checking her watch on screen. The first week, I made them grilled cheese sandwiches, cut up apples and strawberries into perfect slices, poured juice boxes, set them up with snacks, and Disney Plus, helped with homework, essentially became their nanny. But after 5 straight days of this, of ruined client calls, missed deadlines, 2 designs I couldn't concentrate on because of constant interruptions, I'd had enough. You guys are old enough to make snacks yourselves. I told them on Monday of week 2. Bread's in the pantry. Peanut butter and jelly in the fridge. There are cheese sticks. Yogurt. Fruit. Help yourselves. Okay. Mason looked confused. But Mom said I have to work. I'm sorry. Friday evening. 6:15 p.m. Vicky walked through the door more than 4 hours after her shift ended, loaded with shopping bags from TJ Maxx. Jess? Why are my kids eating nothing but peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all day? Emma said she's had 4 of them since yesterday. That's not healthy. I was at my laptop, desperately trying to finish a design proposal due Monday, because I'm trying to run a business, and they're constantly hungry. I can't stop working every 30 minutes to prepare full meals. But you're home all day. It's not like you have to commute to an office or anything. The words hung in the air. I felt something snap inside me. Vicky, my home is my office. This apartment is where I earn my living. I have client calls, important calls with people who pay me thousands of dollars. I have design deadlines that, if I miss them, I lose clients. I have site visits scheduled. I can't be a full-time nanny on top of running a business that supports me. Well, what am I supposed to do with them? They're just kids. They need supervision. I don't know, maybe actually spend time with your own children instead of having 3-hour lunches with your friends at trendy brunch spots every single day. I saw your Instagram stories. You were at that new place in Wicker Park yesterday for 2.5 hours. Mimosas and avocado toast while I'm here playing babysitter. Her face flushed bright red. That's not fair. I barely get any time for myself. You get 4 hours every day after work, 4 hours when you could be with your kids. You're being selfish. I'm being selfish. I gave you my home. Vicky, my bedroom, my peace, my space, for free. She grabbed her shopping bags and stormed into the guest room. My guest room, slamming the door so hard a framed photo fell off the hallway wall. That night, I heard her and Brian arguing through the walls. His voice. I told you this would happen. Her voice shut up. Brian, just shut up. Things escalated the following Tuesday. I had a crucial site inspection in Northwest Indiana, nearly 2 hours each way for a major project. A wealthy client building a custom lakefront home. A $500? 000 contract that would establish my firm's reputation. Missing this meeting wasn't an option. Monday night at dinner, I made the announcement, I have to leave tomorrow at 6 in the morning for a site visit. I won't be back until 7 or 8 at night. You'll need to handle the kids' entire routine breakfast, getting them to school, pickup, dinner, everything. Vicky's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. What, but I have work tomorrow. Can you call in sick or go in late and leave early? This is really important. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Fine. Whatever. Tuesday morning. 5:55 a.m. I stood at the front door. Laptop bag over my shoulder. Travel mug of coffee in hand. Carquets ready. I was reviewing my notes when Vicky came rushing out of the guest room in her pajamas. Hair wild. Mascara from yesterday smudged under her eyes. You can't leave. What am I supposed to do with Mason and Emma? Take care of them. They're your children. Vicky. But I'm supposed to meet Brittany and Amanda for brunch at 11. At that amazing new place in Wicker Park everyone's talking about. It's Brittany's birthday. We've had this planned for 3 weeks. I stared at her, genuinely unable to believe what I was hearing. Then cancel it. Call her and wish her happy birthday. That's completely unfair. You're being incredibly selfish right now. Jessica, do you know how hard it is being a mom? I never get to do anything fun, Vicky. I'm going to work. You know my job, the one that pays for this apartment where you're living completely rent-free, the job that pays for the electricity you use, the hot water for your hour-long showers, the Wi-Fi for your Netflix binges. That work. You don't have to throw that in my face like some kind of martyr. Apparently, I do, because you don't seem to grasp what you're asking of me. I'll be back tonight. She was still sputtering with fury as I closed the door behind me. I returned that evening at 7:45 p.m., exhausted from the long drive and an intense day of managing contractors and an exceptionally demanding client. I could hear the chaos before I even reached my floor. I opened my door to complete pandemonium. My parents were camped out in my living room. The television was blasting at a volume that probably violated city noise ordinances. Both Mom and Dad are hard of hearing, so they keep everything cranked to levels that could shatter glass. A Cubs game was on, and they were shouting at the screen like the players could actually hear them. Mason and Emma were running wild, chasing each other in circles around my coffee table, shrieking at full volume. A lamp was knocked over. Couch cushions were on the floor. And Vicky, she was sprawled on my custom sofa, feet up, laughing into her phone on FaceTime, completely oblivious to the chaos surrounding her. Hi. Mom. Hi. Dad? I had to practically shout to be heard. What are you doing here? Mom barely glanced away from the baseball game. Vicky called us this morning, completely panicked. Said you abandoned the children. Just left them here alone, with no warning. No care for their safety. Someone had to watch them. Jessica, I didn't abandon anyone. I told Vicky about this trip yesterday at dinner. She agreed to handle it. Well, clearly she couldn't. So here we are. Don't worry about dinner, I made pot roast for everyone. It's in your oven. I had to admit, that was the only silver lining. Mom's pot roast was legendary meat, so tender it fell apart. Roasted carrots and potatoes. Gravy rich enough to make you weep. The first real, proper home-cooked meal I'd had in nearly 2 weeks. But the cost was too high. Because now, instead of hosting just Vicky's family of 4, I had my entire extended family treating my home like a community center. Mom and Dad started showing up every single afternoon around 3:00 p.m. The noise level went from unbearable to absolutely catastrophic. Every afternoon became the same nightmare. Children screaming, television blaring, phone conversations at full volume, my parents trying to be heard over everything else. Working became physically impossible. I missed 2 client deadlines that week. 2. Something that had never happened in my entire career. I was losing control of my own life, my own space, my own business, and we were only 2 weeks in. The following Saturday, I had to inspect a major renovation project in Oak Park, a complete kitchen and master bath overhaul for Gerald Thompson, a partner at one of Chicago's most prestigious law firms. He was paying me $180. Ling, ling, ling. And he was meticulous to the point of obsession. The Italian marble tile was being installed that day, and I absolutely had to be there to supervise. I left at 8:00 a.m., telling everyone I'd be back around 6:00 p.m. As I drove down my street that evening at 6:40 p.m., I heard music thumping from half a block away. My heart immediately sank into my stomach. That was coming from my building. I parked and walked toward my condo, the music growing louder with each step. When I reached the hallway outside my door, I could feel the bass vibrating through the walls. I opened the door to my private patio and stopped dead. My parents had organized a full-scale barbecue party on my outdoor space. At least 25 people were crammed onto my patio, distant relatives I saw maybe once a year at Thanksgiving, neighbors from my parents' suburb in Des Plaines, and at least 6 or 7 people I had never seen in my entire life. They'd commandeered all my outdoor furniture. My expensive gas grill, the premium one I'd saved for months to buy, was going full blast with what looked like dozens of steaks and chicken breasts. My refrigerator door was wide open, and I could see it was completely empty. Every single item of food I'd bought for the week gone. The steaks I'd planned to cook Sunday, the chicken breasts, all my fresh vegetables, the imported cheese, that expensive bottle of wine from Napa Valley I'd been saving, everything. I stood there, genuinely unable to process what I was seeing. They'd thrown a party in my home, without asking, without even telling me. They'd invited strangers into my private space and helped themselves to everything I owned. I forced myself to smile and walked outside. No point making a scene in front of 25 people. Jessica Dad spotted me and waved enthusiastically, holding a beer in one hand and grill tongs in the other. There she is. Come join us. Beautiful day. Beautiful weather. We decided to have a little get-together. Your mom's been planning it all week. You don't mind? Right, I minded. I minded so much I could barely breathe. Of course not, I said through clenched teeth. I see you found everything you needed. Your mom went to Costco, Dad said proudly. Bought steaks, burgers, hot dogs, drinks, to the works. Used your credit card, she found it in that kitchen drawer. Hope that's okay. We'll pay you back. They'd used my credit card. Without asking. Without permission. I felt dizzy. The party lasted until 1:30 p.m. I locked myself in my office, my bedroom now. Remember trying desperately to work on a design presentation due Monday morning. But concentration was impossible. Music pounded through the walls. Laughter. Voices of strangers. People I didn't know using my bathroom, walking through my home, touching my things. Finally, at 1:35 p.m., the last guest stumbled out. My parents started gathering their things immediately. Mom was slightly drunk. I realized, Mom, Dad, please help me clean up this disaster. Mom looked exhausted and annoyed that I'd even asked. Oh, honey, I'm so tired. It's been such a long day. We really need to get home. It's almost midnight. And it's a 45-minute drive to Des Plaines. Your father shouldn't be driving this late, but the patio is covered in trash, and we'll help tomorrow. Sweetheart, promise. And just like that, they left. Vicky, Brian, and the kids had disappeared into their rooms the moment the party ended. I spent the next 3 hours cleaning in the dark, collecting beer bottles, wine glasses, paper plates, scraping congealed food into trash bags, sweeping up cigarette butts. Someone had been smoking despite my clear no smoking rule, wiping sticky residue off my patio furniture. I finally collapsed onto my daybed at 2:40 a.m., knowing I had to be up in 3 hours to finish work I couldn't do because of the party. As I lay there in the darkness, I realized something. This wasn't going to end. Not unless I ended it. Sunday at noon. Like clockwork. My parents showed up. They let themselves in. Vicky had apparently given them a key to my home without asking me. We're here to watch the kids, Mom announced cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. Vicky and Brian need some couple time. They're going to that new brunch place in Bucktown. Something inside me snapped. No, we need to talk about yesterday first. You cannot throw parties in my home without asking me. Dad actually looked offended. Oh, come on. Jess, we just wanted to have a little fun. Catch up with some old friends we haven't seen in a while. You're always alone here anyway. We thought you'd enjoy having family around. Some life in this place. I don't want surprise parties here. This is my home. Not a community center or event space. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Don't be so dramatic. Honey, family should be able to gather. That's what families do. We support each other. Vicky emerged from the guest room, still in her bathrobe despite it being noon. What's all the noise about? I'm explaining to Mom and Dad that there cannot be any more surprise gatherings in my apartment without my permission. God. Jess. Vicky rolled her eyes dramatically. They just wanted to have some fun. You're being so uptight about everything lately. This is why you're always alone. This is why you don't have a boyfriend. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. But I pushed forward. This is my home. Vicky. And speaking of which, your month is up. It's been 5 weeks now. When exactly are you moving back to your apartment in Schaumburg? The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Vicky suddenly became very interested in her fingernails. Brian, who'd appeared behind her, suddenly discovered something absolutely fascinating on his phone, scrolling intently, refusing to make eye contact. So, the thing is, Vicky started slowly, her voice taking on that careful tone people use when they're about to drop bad news. We gave up the old apartment. The words hit me like a physical punch to the stomach. What did you just say? After the renovation finished? The landlord raised our rent by $800 a month, from $1,700 to $2,500. We couldn't afford it anymore. It was completely unreasonable. So we decided not to renew the lease. We're actively looking for something else in our price range. And when exactly were you planning to tell me this? I'm telling you now. Listen, if we stay another couple of months while we search for the right place, it's really not a big deal. Right. You have 3 bedrooms, plenty of space. We're family. My parents were nodding along like this. Made perfect sense. Like I was being unreasonable for being upset about being lied to. Vicky, you promised 1 month. You looked me in the eye and promised. You lied to me. I didn't lie. Plans changed. That's life. Jessica, you have to learn to be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. You've been lying for weeks. Oh my God. You're being so dramatic. I didn't say another word. I walked to my office, grabbed my phone, and texted Marcus Chen, a realtor friend I'd worked with on several commercial design projects. Marcus need apartment listings as soon as possible. 2-bedroom. Schaumburg area. Max, $2. 000 divided by month. For my sister, kind of urgent. 3 minutes later, on it. Give me 10 minutes. I returned to the living room. Everyone was staring at me, my parents confused. Vicky looking nervous. Brian still pretending to be absorbed in his phone. What are you doing? Vicky asked. Her voice uncertain. Finding you an apartment. My phone buzzed. Marcus had sent over 18 listings with photos. Addresses. Detailed descriptions. And rental prices. All within their budget. All in decent neighborhoods. All available now. I forwarded every single one to Vicky. There, 18 options in your old area. All affordable. All available immediately. You can start calling tomorrow morning. Jessica, are you insane? We're family. Family helps each other out. Family supports each other. You're absolutely right. Family does help each other. Family also doesn't lie about how long they're staying. Family doesn't throw parties without permission in someone else's home. Family doesn't turn me into an unpaid nanny while they go out to brunch every single day. Family doesn't use my credit card without asking. Family doesn't take advantage of someone's generosity and kindness. My parents exchanged deeply uncomfortable looks. Dad cleared his throat. Maybe your mother and I should head home. This seems like something you two need to work out privately. After they left, Vicky and Brian locked themselves in the guest room. I could hear muffled arguing through the walls for the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. At one point, I clearly heard Brian yell, "I told you this would happen. I told you we should have been honest from the start." Her response was muffled but equally angry. That night, as I tried to sleep on my daybed, I made a decision. One way or another, this was ending. The following Tuesday, my utility bills arrived via email. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and opened them one by one. My blood pressure rising with each click. Electricity, usually around $120 per month. This month, $342. Water usually around $45. This month, $187. Gas, usually $65. This month, $181. Internet somehow jumped $50 because someone Mason had ordered premium movie channels and sports packages without asking. Total utilities, usually around $230. This month, $760. Then I pulled up my credit card statements and calculated grocery expenses. I normally spend about $400 per month on groceries for myself. Over the past 5 weeks, between regular shopping and my mother's unauthorized Costco run for the barbecue, I'd spent babysitting. I also noticed charges from Target, TJ Maxx, and several restaurants I'd never been to. I called the credit card company. Apparently, my mother had been using my card for her own shopping. Assuming I wouldn't notice or wouldn't mind, I took screenshots of everything. That evening at dinner, I made an announcement. Everyone was gathered around my dining table, the beautiful one I'd carefully selected from a Danish furniture designer, eating Chinese takeout that Brian had ordered, but that I'd ended up paying for when his card was declined. I've been reviewing the bills and expenses. I need to share something with all of you. I pulled up the spreadsheets on my laptop and turned the screen so everyone could see. If you're not moving out by the end of next month, we need to establish new terms. You'll pay $1,500 monthly rent, plus half of all utilities, plus half of all grocery costs. That comes to approximately $2,000 per month total. Vicky nearly choked on her lo mein. $1,500, are you out of your mind? That's absolutely insane. That's actually significantly below market rate for a 3-bedroom in Lincoln Park. And it's a fraction of what it actually costs me to support 4 extra people. Brian's face darkened. We're not paying you rent. You're family. Family doesn't charge family to live with them. That's just not how it works. Okay. Then you have exactly 2 weeks from today to find a new place and move out. After that, I'm changing the locks. You can't do that. Vicky's face was turning bright red, her voice getting shrill. That's illegal. I'll call the police. Actually, it's not illegal. You're not on my lease. Your names are not on my mortgage. You have no legal right to be here. I've been generous enough to let you stay this long. Rent-free. But you've taken complete advantage of that generosity. So you have 2 choices, pay rent or move out. They both stood up abruptly, their chairs scraping loudly against my hardwood floors. This is unbelievable. Vicky hissed. They stormed off to the guest room and slammed the door so violently that the picture frame in the hallway fell off the wall again. I still hadn't fixed it from last time, and this time the glass shattered. Mason and Emma sat at the table, looking scared and confused. Their food untouched. My heart broke for them. Don't worry. Guys, I said softly, kneeling down to their eye level. Your parents are just stressed. They'll figure things out. Everything's going to be okay. But Emma's eyes were filled with tears. Are we going to be homeless? Aunt Jessie, no. Sweetheart, your parents will find you a nice place to live. I promise. The next morning was a Sunday. At 1:00 a.m. sharp. My parents arrived. They didn't knock, they used the key Vicky had given them and walked straight in like they owned the place. They didn't even say hello before launching their attack. How dare you threaten to throw your own sister out on the street? Mom's voice was shaking with fury. She looked like she might actually cry. Who, your own flesh and blood? She's not going to be on the street. Mom? She has 18 apartment listings that are perfect for their budget and their needs. She simply doesn't want to actually make the effort to go look at them. This is cruel. Jessica, cold and heartless. We didn't raise you to be like this. We raised you to care about family, to help people when they're down. You raised me to set healthy boundaries and respect myself. You raised me not to let people take advantage of me. That's exactly what I'm doing. And by the way, you also raised me not to lie. But Vicky lied straight to my face about how long she'd be staying. She's your sister. She's family. Family comes first. Always. That's what family means. Then maybe family should act like family. Maybe family shouldn't lie. Maybe family shouldn't take advantage. Maybe family shouldn't throw parties without asking, run up my bills, turn me into free childcare, and use my credit card without permission. Dad stepped forward, his face red. Jessica, look at what you have. This beautiful home, this successful business, more money than you need. Your sister is struggling. She has 2 children to think about. Can't you help her? Isn't that what we do? I have been helping her. Dad, for 5 weeks, I've given up my bedroom, my peace, my workspace, my privacy, my sanity. I've watched her kids for free while she went shopping and had long lunches with friends. I've paid for their food, their electricity, their water, their internet. I've helped plenty, but she lied to me. And now she's trying to make this situation permanent without any discussion or consideration for my life. That's not okay. Mom's voice turned cold. If you do this, if you throw her out, don't expect us to be part of your life anymore. You'll have to choose her or us. Then I guess I'm choosing me. They stared at me, clearly not expecting that response. We'll give you some time to think about this and reconsider. Dad said firmly. "We'll be back next week to see if you've come to your senses." "Don't bother," I said quietly. "My answer won't change." They left, slamming the door behind them. For the next several days, neither Vicky nor Brian spoke to me. We'd pass in the hallway, and they'd look straight through me as if I were invisible. The kids still said hello, though Mason and Emma were good kids, stuck in an impossible situation created by their parents. Honestly, the silence from Vicky and Brian was wonderful. The apartment was finally quiet again, at least when the kids were at school, but I knew this fragile peace wouldn't last. 10 days later, I had to leave for Milwaukee. A 3-day trip to oversee a commercial renovation project, a boutique hotel renovation worth over $800. 0 inches design and management fees. The client was exceptionally demanding, and this project required my constant on-site presence. I left Wednesday morning at Fem Nul a.m., planning to return Friday evening. Thursday evening at 9:17 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Wunny. Patterson. My downstairs neighbor, a retired high school teacher in his 70s, who'd always been kind and friendly to me. Jessica, I hate to bother you, but there's extremely loud music coming from your apartment. It's been going on for over 2 hours now. Just wanted to let you know in case you're not aware. Several neighbors are concerned. My stomach dropped. I immediately called Vicky. No answer. I called Brian. Straight to voicemail. I called 5 more times. Nothing. They were ignoring me. I couldn't leave Milwaukee. I had a critical morning meeting with the hotel owner and the general contractor. Thousands of dollars hung in the balance, but I was absolutely furious. Friday evening, as I drove back into Chicago, I could hear music thumping from my building before I even reached the parking garage. The bass was so loud I could feel it vibrating through my car. My hands were shaking as I rode the elevator up. The music got louder with each floor. I opened my front door at 7:52 p.m. The scene before me was like something from a nightmare. At least 25 strangers were packed into my living room and spilling onto my patio. Music blasted from my expensive Sonos speakers at maximum volume. People I had never seen in my life were drinking liquor from my bar cart, eating food from my kitchen, dancing on my furniture. 2 people were making out on my custom sofa. Someone had spilled an entire glass of red wine on my cream-colored area, rug the expensive one I'd bought from a boutique in River North. Someone else had set a burning cigarette on my coffee table, leaving a black burn mark. Empty beer bottles covered every surface. The kitchen sink was overflowing with dirty dishes. My expensive bottle of bourbon, a $200 gift from a client, was on the counter. 3/4 empty. What the hell is going on here? A few people glanced over. Most completely ignored me, continuing to dance and drink and laugh as if I weren't even there. I spotted Vicky stumbling through the crowd. She was clearly drunk, holding a martini glass. Mascara smudged, unable to walk in a straight line. "Oh. Hey, Jess," she had to yell over the music. "Lighten up. Don't be such a total buzzkill. This is my home. Everyone needs to leave." "Right now?" She actually laughed in my face. "If you don't like it, then you leave." She poked me hard in the chest with her finger, causing me to stumble backward. Everyone turned to stare at me now. A crowd of drunk strangers in my apartment, looking at me like I was the problem. "Yeah, this is our place now." Some large guy I'd never seen in my life yelled from my kitchen. He was holding my $200 bottle of bourbon. "Get lost, lady." The crowd erupted in laughter and started chanting, "Leave, leave, 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 leave." I felt genuinely unsafe. I was alone facing 25 intoxicated people who clearly saw me as the enemy. This could turn violent. They could hurt me. They were in my home, and I was the outsider. I grabbed my purse, my laptop bag, and walked out of my own apartment. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely drive. I made it to the Hampton Inn 3 blocks away and checked in for the night. $145 to sleep in a hotel because I couldn't stay in my own home that I was paying a $3,400 monthly mortgage on. I sat on that generic hotel bed and cried. Cried from anger, from frustration, from exhaustion, from the sheer betrayal of it all. My own sister, my own family, had literally kicked me out of my own home. That night, I made my final decision. This ended tomorrow, no matter what. Saturday morning at 8:15 a.m. I returned to my apartment. It was empty. Everyone had apparently left or passed out somewhere else. But the destruction was catastrophic. Beer bottles everywhere, on every table. On the floor, on windowsills, in my bathroom. Food ground into my cream-colored sofa. The cigarette burn on my coffee table. Red wine stains on my white rug that would probably never come out. Someone had vomited in one of my bathrooms and hadn't cleaned it up, just left it there. My expensive bourbon was gone. So was the bottle of wine I'd been saving for my Napa Valley trip. A lamp was broken. There was a hole punched in my hallway wall. The estimated damage, at least $4. Ling, ling, ling. Something inside me broke. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. This wasn't just inconvenience. This was deliberate destruction. This was warfare. I spent the morning methodically packing every single item belonging to Vicky's family. Everything they'd brought when they moved in, plus all the junk they'd accumulated over 6 weeks. But I wasn't careless. I'm not a monster. I folded clothes neatly. I organized the kids' toys, carefully and gently. I packed Brian's work clothes properly. Everything went into boxes and suitcases, labeled and organized exactly the way I would for my professional design clients. By 11:47 a.m., everything was packed and stacked by the front door. At 12:30 p.m., I heard keys in the lock. Vicky walked in with Mason and Emma, apparently returning from wherever they'd spent the night. She saw the suitcases and boxes lined up by the door. Her face went completely pale. "Jessica, what are you doing? You're leaving? Today? Right now? You can't just kick us out. We have nowhere to go. Where are we supposed to sleep tonight? You should have thought about that before you threw a party in my home. Destroyed my property. And told me to get out of my own apartment. It wasn't my fault." Her voice turned desperate. Frantic. "Brian's friends just showed up and things got out of control and I couldn't. I don't care whose fault it was. I don't care about excuses. You're done here. Please. Jessica, I'm begging you. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. I swear on my children's lives, it won't happen again. I'll pay for all the damages. I'll get a second job. You're absolutely right. It won't happen again. Because you won't be here." Mason and Emma stood behind their mother, clutching their backpacks, looking terrified and confused. Emma was holding her stuffed bunny so tightly, her knuckles were white. Mason's eyes were filling with tears. My heart was breaking for them. None of this was their fault. They were innocent victims of their mother's selfishness and irresponsibility. "Please," Vicky begged. Actual tears, streaming down her face now. Real tears. Not manipulation. "Give me one more chance. Just one more. I'll do better. I promise I'll do better. I already gave you multiple chances. I gave you a place to stay when you needed it. I gave you patience when you lied about the timeline. I gave you understanding when you stuck me with constant babysitting. I gave you forgiveness when you threw the first party without asking. I gave you grace when you used my credit card without permission. I'm done giving. Vicky, I have nothing left to give you. But we're family. Then you should have acted like it." Within an hour, my parents arrived. Vicky must have called them. The screaming started before they even made it through the door. "How dare you throw your own sister out on the street like garbage?" Mom's face was bright red, veins visible in her neck. I held up my phone, showing them photos I'd taken of the destruction. The vomit, the wine stains, the cigarette burns, the broken lamp, the hole in the wall. This is what your daughter allowed to happen in my home. This is what I came home to. 25 drunk strangers destroying everything I worked for. Dad's anger faltered slightly when he saw the photos. That's bad. But surely you can work this out. She's your sister. I'm done working things out. You can either help her move her things, or you can leave. Those are the only two options. Mom started crying real. Devastated crying. Where are they supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. But if you'd like to volunteer your home again, feel free. They exchanged glances, and I saw something flash in their eyes. Fear. They remembered how awful it had been. They didn't want that again. They helped load boxes into Vicky's car in complete silence. Vicky stood by her car, mascara running down her face, looking utterly defeated. I'll never forgive you for this. Never. I can live with that. They drove away at 3:47 p.m. I stood at my window and watched their car disappear down the street. Then I locked the door, walked to my bedroom, and collapsed on my bed. It was over. I spent the entire weekend deep cleaning and repairing. Saturday afternoon, I called a professional carpet cleaning service. They came Sunday morning and worked for 4 hours on the wine stains. We got about 80% of it out. The technician said, "But wine stains this deep, you might want to consider replacing this section." Sunday afternoon, I went to a furniture store and bought a new coffee table to replace the one with cigarette burns, $800. I hired a handyman to patch and repaint the hole in the hallway wall, $250. I bought new towels because somehow theirs had ruined mine with permanent stains. I replaced the broken lamp, $150. I bought new glassware because half of mine was missing or broken. I called a locksmith and had every lock changed, $300. Total damage and replacement costs $4. Sembe Boscher. But it was worth every single penny. By Sunday evening at 7:00 p.m., my apartment looked almost exactly as it had before they moved in. Better. Actually, I'd learned what mattered to me. I'd learned what I was willing to fight for. I'd learned the difference between helping and enabling, between family and toxicity, between kindness and doormat. I sat on my sofa, properly clean now, with a glass of wine, and just breathed in the silence. The beautiful, peaceful, precious silence. Shouts. And emotional drainage. My productivity skyrocketed. I took on 2 major projects. I'd been too stressed and overwhelmed to consider before a luxury penthouse in the Gold Coast and a complete home renovation in Evanston. I hired another designer, Sarah, a talented young woman fresh out of design school with incredible ideas and boundless energy. I started looking at larger office space in the loop for expansion. My firm was growing. My revenue increased by 35% in those 2 months. 35%. I was sleeping better 8 full hours in my own bed. In my own room. I was eating better, cooking actual meals instead of surviving on takeout and stress. My stress levels dropped so dramatically, my doctor commented on my improved blood pressure at my annual checkup. I joined a yoga studio 3 blocks from my apartment. I started dating again, went on several first dates that didn't lead anywhere. But it felt good to be putting myself out there. I reconnected with friends I'd been neglecting, hosted small dinner parties in my beautiful, peaceful space. Life was actually good. Better than good. Life was thriving. Then, one Saturday morning in early October, 2 months after everything exploded, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole, and my heart jumped. Mom was standing there, looking smaller and older than I remembered. She was holding a pie carrier. I stood there for a long moment, my hand on the doorknob, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I opened the door slowly. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice was quiet, uncertain. She held out the pie carrier. "Your favorite." strawberry rhubarb. From Benison's Bakery in Evanston, I drove all the way there because I know you love theirs. I took the pie, and we stood there awkwardly for a moment. Would you like to come in? If that's okay. We sat in my living room. She looked around, taking in how peaceful and beautiful everything was. How it looked like a real home again, not a disaster zone. Jessica. She took a deep breath, and I could see her eyes were already watering. Your father and I owe you the most sincere apology. We were wrong. So incredibly wrong about everything. What happened? Mom hair voice cracked. We kicked Vicky and her family out 2 weeks ago. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. You what? The story came pouring out. After I'd kicked them out, Vicky and Brian had moved in with my parents, exactly what I'd predicted. Every single morning, Vicky would drop Mason and Emma off with us at 7:30 and disappear until 6 or 7 in the evening. Sometimes later, shopping, meeting friends, getting her nail done, whatever she wanted. She never helped around the house, never bought groceries, never cooked, never cleaned, never lifted a finger to help us. That sounds familiar? It was exactly like what she did to you. Worse. Actually, because we're older, we don't have the energy we used to. Brian wasn't any better. He'd come home from work and collapse on our couch in front of our TV until midnight, eating our food, leaving his dishes everywhere. How long did they live with you? 2 months. 2 months of absolute hell. Jessica. Mom's voice was shaking. Kids running and screaming from morning until night. Vicky on her phone constantly, laughing with friends while we cooked and cleaned and babysat her children. Brian, eating us out of house and home without contributing a single dollar. Our utility bills more than doubled, just like yours did. We had to dip into your father's retirement savings to cover groceries because we couldn't feed 6 people on our fixed income. I nodded slowly, feeling a strange mixture of vindication and sadness. Now, do you understand why I couldn't let them stay permanently? We understand completely. You did exactly the right thing by setting boundaries. You protected yourself. We should have supported you from the very beginning. Instead of taking their side, we should have trusted you. We failed you as parents. And I am so sorry. Tears were streaming down her face now. Where are they living now? They found a 2-bedroom apartment in Cicero. Small place. Not the best neighborhood. About 1,000 square feet for 4 people. Vicky complains constantly that it's cramped and unsafe. That the schools aren't good. That it's nothing like your beautiful condo in Lincoln Park. She'll adjust. She'll have to. We hope so. Mom paused, wiping her eyes with a tissue. Jessica, your father and I are deeply, profoundly sorry. We should have listened to you from the very beginning. We should have seen what was happening. We enabled Vicky for her entire life. And we made you the villain for refusing to do the same. That was wrong. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. She looked genuinely remorseful and absolutely exhausted. The stress of those 2 months had aged her years. There were new lines around her eyes. Gray in her hair I hadn't noticed before. I appreciate the apology. Mom, it means everything to me that you understand now. Can we be a real family again? Can you forgive us? I know we don't deserve it. But of course I can forgive you. You're my parents. I love you. But I need you to understand something. My home is my home. No more surprise parties. No more making decisions about who gets to stay here without my explicit permission. No more taking my side for granted. Clear boundaries from now on. Absolutely. We understand completely now. We really do. How does Vicky feel about all this? About what happened with you? And Mom's expression darkened considerably. She's still furious with you. She blames you for everything. Her housing situation, her financial problems, her marriage troubles, everything. She tells everyone who'll listen that you destroyed her life. that you ruined her marriage, that you forced her into poverty. She's made you the villain in her story. I can't control what she thinks or what story she tells herself. Mom, I can only control my own choices and actions, and I don't regret protecting myself and my life. I'd do it again, nor should you regret it. Sweetheart, your father and I are so proud of you, proud of your strength, your success, your boundaries. We should have told you that from the beginning. We talked for another 2 hours. She caught me up on family news carefully, avoiding too much direct discussion about Vicky, unless I asked. She asked detailed questions about my business, seemed genuinely proud of my success and growth. She told me about Dad's new hobby, woodworking in their garage. Normal, everyday family conversation. For the first time in months, we had a healthy mother-daughter conversation without drama, guilt trips, manipulation, or stress. When she finally stood to leave, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe like she used to when I was a little girl. We missed you so much. Jess, the house feels so empty without you coming by on Sundays like you used to. I missed you too. Mom, would you and Dad like to come for dinner next Sunday? I'll cook maybe that pot roast you're famous for. If you'll teach me your recipe. Her face absolutely lit up. Years dropping away. We would love that more than anything. After that Sunday, things gradually, carefully returned to normal with my parents. At least, they started coming over for Sunday dinners again. We'd cook together, watch classic movies, talk about life, politics, books, everything and nothing. During these visits, they never brought up Vicky unless I specifically asked, and I rarely asked. There was an unspoken agreement between us to rebuild our relationship on a new, healthier foundation without the constant drama. Work continued to explode in the best possible way, without constant interruptions and emotional chaos. I could focus completely on my craft and my clients. In November, I signed the contract that would change my career, designing 12 luxury condos in a new Gold Coast development, nearly $2, $3 million in total project value, 18 months of work. But it would establish my firm as a major player in Chicago's competitive design scene. I also started dating Daniel Rivera. We'd worked together on several projects over the years. He was a general contractor with his own company, known for exceptional craftsmanship and reliability. After one particularly successful project completion in December, we grabbed dinner together at Quartino in River North. One dinner turned into 2, then 3. By Christmas, we were officially together. When I told him the whole Vicky story one evening over wine at his apartment, he just shook his head in amazed disbelief. You did exactly the right thing. I've seen way too many good people get completely taken advantage of by family members who see them as ATMs or endless sources of free help. Sometimes the people closest to you cause the most damage because they know exactly which buttons to push. Sometimes I still wonder if I was too harsh, if maybe I should have tried harder to make it work. Jess, listen to me. He took my hands. They lied about their timeline. They doubled your bills without contributing anything. They stuck you with free childcare while your sister went shopping and partying. They used your credit card without permission. They threw a party in your home. I told you to leave your apartment, and then destroyed your property. You weren't harsh. You weren't mean. You were protecting yourself and your livelihood. That's not just okay, that's absolutely necessary for survival. He was right. And hearing him say it, someone with no emotional stake in the situation, helped silence that little voice of guilt that sometimes whispered late at night. But there was still a small part of me that ached for Mason and Emma. They didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of their mother's dysfunction. About 8 months after Mom's visit, it was now June. Nearly a full year since everything began, I ran into Brian completely by chance. I was grabbing an iced latte at the Starbucks in the Loop. Before a client meeting, the place was packed with the morning rush. I was checking my phone, waiting for my order. When I heard my name, Jessica, I turned around. Brian was standing there with his own coffee, looking genuinely uncomfortable and uncertain. Hi, Brian. How have you been? We're managing, making it work. You know, there was an awkward pause. People pushed past us, trying to get to the pickup counter. We stepped aside near the window, away from the crowd. The new apartment is definitely smaller than we'd like. The neighborhood's rougher than Schaumburg. There was a break-in 2 buildings over last month. Mason's new school isn't great, much bigger classes, fewer resources, but we're surviving, figuring it out day by day. I'm glad you're making it work. Another awkward pause. He stared down at his coffee cup, seeming to wrestle with something. Listen, I wanted to say something, and I might not get another chance. He finally looked up and met my eyes. I know things got completely out of hand when we stayed with you. I should have stepped up way more than I did. I should have told Vicky no when she wanted to throw that party. I should have enforced boundaries with the kids, made them respect your space and your work time. I should have been more aware of how much we were actually costing you the money, the stress, the disruption to your business. I didn't do any of that, and I'm genuinely sorry for my part in all of it. It was the first real, completely genuine apology I'd received from anyone in their immediate family. Something loosened in my chest. I really appreciate you saying that, Brian. It means a lot to hear. The kids ask about you sometimes, pretty regularly. Actually, they miss Aunt Jessica. They talk about how you used to help them with homework, how you'd make them laugh. They don't really understand what happened or why they don't see you anymore. That hurt way more than I'd expected. My throat tightened. I miss them too. They're really good kids. None of this was their fault. They really are good kids. Look, I know things are probably way too messed up and complicated for us to hang out or have any kind of relationship right now. I get that. But maybe someday, when enough time has passed and things have calmed down, maybe you could see them, get coffee, take them for ice cream. Something. They really did love spending time with you. Despite everything that happened with Vicky and me, I'd like that. I'd really like that. When things settle and it feels right, Vicky's not ready for that. Not even close. She's still very angry, very bitter about everything. She doesn't talk about you without. He stopped himself. I understand. I do. For what it's worth, the divorce papers are filed. It should be final in about 2 months. I got primary custody judge wasn't impressed with Vicky's employment situation or her lifestyle choices. She gets them every other weekend. I'm sorry it came to that. I should have done it years ago. He checked his watch. I should get to work. It was really good seeing you. Jessica. You too. Brian. We said goodbye, and I watched him walk toward the train station, shoulders slightly hunched under the weight of everything he was carrying. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Sad that my family had fractured so completely, but relieved that at least Brian understood what had actually happened, that he could see clearly where things had gone wrong. A year and a half after the whole nightmare began, it was now December. Heading into the holidays, I got engaged to Daniel. He proposed at Cortino, the same Italian restaurant in River North where we'd had our first official date. We'd just finished an incredible meal, and he got down on one knee right there between the tables. It was perfect, intimate, romantic, completely us. I called my parents immediately. They were thrilled, genuinely happy for me. 2 weeks later, Mom called with unexpected news. Jessica, I need to tell you something. Vicky and Brian's divorce was finalized yesterday. I was at my office, reviewing fabric swatches for a client's living room. I put down the samples and gave her my full attention. I knew it was coming. Brian mentioned it when I ran into him back in June. The judge granted Brian primary custody. Vicky gets Mason and Emma every other weekend and one weeknight for dinner. The judge apparently wasn't impressed with her lack of stable full-time employment, her financial irresponsibility, or her current living situation. How are the kids handling everything, as well as can be expected? I suppose. Brian's doing his absolute best. He moved them to a better school district, commutes 45 minutes each way now, so they can have better opportunities. He's working hard to give them the stability they need. That's really good. He seems like he's trying to be a good father. Where's Vicky living now? She moved in with 3 other women in a small apartment in Pilsen, some friends from her retail job. I think 4 women sharing about 900 square feet. She's still working part-time at Nordstrom Rack. 20 to 25 hours a week, barely making ends meet. I felt a wave of sadness for Mason and Emma. They hadn't asked for any of this chaos. This instability, this broken family. Jessica. Vicky tried to move back in with us when the divorce proceedings started. She showed up one night with suitcases, just expecting she could stay. What did you say? We said no. Firmly and immediately. Your father stood his ground. I was proud of him. We learned our lesson. We're not enabling her anymore. No matter how hard she cries or how guilty she tries to make us feel. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. It was one of the hardest things we've ever done. She didn't speak to us for 6 weeks afterward. But we held firm. Your father and I talked about it for hours. Jessica. We realized we've been rescuing her from the consequences of her own choices and actions her entire life. Every time she made a mistake, we fixed it. Every time she faced difficulties, we cushioned the blow. We never let her experience real consequences. So she never learned. It's time she learned to stand on her own 2 feet and take responsibility for her own life. I'm really proud of you both for setting that boundary. Has she tried calling you no? Not once in over a year. She's been calling everyone else. Though, she called your Aunt Carol in Milwaukee. Called Cousin Michelle in Minneapolis. Even called your father's brother in Wisconsin. They haven't spoken in 5 years. Looking for anyone to take her in. No one said yes. Word got around in the family about what happened with you. And then with us. People are being very careful. That didn't surprise me even a little. Family gossip travels at the speed of light. Especially when it involves someone causing chaos wherever they go. Mom, can I ask you something? Do you think she'll ever take responsibility, ever actually acknowledge what she did? There was a long pause. I don't know. Honey, I honestly don't know. She's still playing the victim. Still blaming everyone else, us. Brian, the landlord, the economy, the system, everyone except herself, until she's willing to look in the mirror and face her own choices. I don't see how anything changes for her. Daniel and I got married in June. Exactly 2 years after the whole ordeal began. We chose a beautiful lakefront estate in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. About 75 guests, close friends, colleagues, Daniel's large extended family, and my parents. Perfect weather. Élégant décoration. A string quartet. Food from one of Chicago's best caterers. Everything I'd ever dreamed of. My parents came and were genuinely, radiantly happy for us. Dad cried. During our first dance, actually cried. Tears streaming down his face. Mom gave a touching speech during the reception about finding the right partner who respects and cherishes you. About building a life with someone who supports your dreams and honors your boundaries. I'm so grateful Jessica found someone who sees her value, Mom said, her voice thick with emotion. Someone who understands that loving someone means respecting their needs, their space, their goals. That's what real family looks like. I knew she was thinking about Vicky when she said it. Vicky wasn't invited to the wedding. According to my parents, She wouldn't have come anyway, would have refused out of stubborn pride, even if I'd extended an invitation. Mason and Emma weren't there either, and that hurt more than I wanted to admit. I'd wanted them to come, they were my niece and nephew, and I loved them despite everything. But Brian thought it would be too complicated, too likely to cause drama with Vicky, too confusing for the kids. Instead, he sent a thoughtful card with a generous $200 gift certificate to Crate and Barrel, along with drawings the kids had made. Congratulations, Aunt Jessica, in Mason's careful 12-year-old handwriting, with Emma's colorful flowers and hearts drawn all around the border. I cried when I opened it. Daniel held me while I cried. During the reception, as the sun was setting over the lake and painting everything in shades of gold and pink, Dad pulled me aside near the bar. "I'm so proud of you. Jessica, look at what you've built, what you've created, with your own hands and your own determination. A successful, thriving business. A beautiful marriage to a man who clearly adores you. A life completely on your own terms. You did all of this yourself. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. And I'm sorry, your mother and I are both sorry that it took us so long to understand what was really happening with Vicky. We enabled her for so many years. From the time she was a teenager right up until last year. You were just trying to protect yourself and your life. And we made you feel guilty for having healthy boundaries. We made you the villain for refusing to be a doormat. That was wrong. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. You were trying to help your daughter. I understand the impulse. Dad, I really do. There's helping, and then there's enabling. There's supporting someone, and then there's preventing them from ever facing consequences and learning from their mistakes. We finally learned the difference. Too late for Vicky. Maybe. But we learned. He was absolutely right. For decades, my parents had rescued Vicky from every problem she created. Every bad decision. Every consequence. They'd paid her bills when she overspent. They'd watched her kids for free whenever she asked. They'd made excuses for her behavior. Justified her choices. Blamed external circumstances instead of her own actions. They'd never forced her to face the reality and consequences of her choices. So when she finally had to deal with real life on her own, without a safety net, she couldn't handle it. It's not too late. Dad, you're setting healthy boundaries now with her. That's what matters. He hugged me tight, and I could feel him trembling slightly. I love you so much. Quito. I love you too. Dad. Now, 2.5 years after the whole nightmare began, I sit in my beautiful, peaceful apartment with my husband Daniel, running a thriving interior design firm and maintaining genuinely healthy relationships with the family members who truly respect me. My business has grown beyond anything I ever imagined back when I was working from that daybed in my office. I now have 8 designers working for me, a project manager, and an office administrator. We moved into a significantly larger office space in the Loop, modern, bright, with room to grow even more. We're currently designing a boutique hotel in downtown Chicago, 24 rooms, a rooftop bar, a street-level restaurant. It's the most prestigious project my firm has ever landed. And it will absolutely take us to the next level in Chicago's ultra-competitive design scene. Daniel and I are actively looking at houses in the suburbs, maybe Evanston or Oak Park, somewhere with good schools, because we're talking seriously about starting a family in the next year or two. We take weekend trips to Michigan, host dinner parties with friends and colleagues, volunteer together at a local community center. We've built a life filled with laughter, mutual respect, partnership, and genuine love. My parents come over every other Sunday without fail. We cook together. Mom finally taught me her famous pot roast recipe, and I've actually perfected it. We play board games, watch Cubs games, talk about books and politics and everything under the sun. Our relationship is stronger now than it's ever been, built on a foundation of honesty, respect, and healthy boundaries rather than obligation. Guilt and enabling. Last month, Dad helped Daniel install new shelving in our home office. Mom and I went shopping for wedding gifts for one of my designers. Normal, healthy family activities, the way it should have always been. This morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Vicky was evicted from her apartment in Pilsen. Rent was 3 months overdue. She's asking if she can come stay with us again. Says she has nowhere else to go. I took a sip of my coffee, looked out at my peaceful living room, and texted back, "What did you tell her?" We said no. Your father and I are too old for that kind of chaos and stress. We love her, but we can't help someone who refuses to help themselves. She needs to figure this out on her own. I'm proud of you both. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, but it was necessary. She'll figure it out. She has to. I put my phone down and looked around my living room. Clean, organized, peaceful, beautiful. Exactly how I designed it. Exactly how I fought to keep it. Some people think cutting off family members is terrible, cruel, unforgivable, a betrayal of the sacred bonds of blood. But I learned something crucial and life-changing through all of this. You cannot help people who fundamentally don't want to help themselves. You cannot maintain healthy relationships with people who see you only as a resource to be exploited, a problem solver for crises they created, a safety net they can fall into without ever trying to stand on their own 2 feet. Vicky made her choices. She chose to lie about her timeline when I was doing her a favor. She chose to dump her children on me while she socialized and shopped. She chose to let our parents throw parties in my home without permission. She chose to use my credit card without asking. She chose to throw a destructive party and literally kick me out of my own apartment. She chose to destroy my property and show zero remorse. And even now, years later, she continues to choose to blame everyone else instead of looking honestly at her own decisions and patterns. And I made my choice. I chose to protect my peace, my home, my business, my financial stability, and my mental health. I chose to set firm boundaries and actually enforce them when they were violated. I chose not to enable destructive behavior just because we share DNA. I chose myself, and I have never, not for one single moment, regretted that decision. I'm living proof that you can build a genuinely happy, successful, peaceful life, even after cutting ties with toxic family members who refuse to change. My relationship with my parents is healthier and stronger than ever because we all learned painfully, but thoroughly to set and respect boundaries. My business thrives because I protected my workspace, my creative energy, and my mental health when they were under attack. My marriage is strong and fulfilling because I chose a partner who respects my needs, honors my boundaries, and sees me as an equal partner rather than a resource to be exploited. And my home, it's still my sanctuary. Peaceful, beautiful, organized, and completely mine. A space where I can breathe, create, rest, and simply be myself without chaos, without drama, without walking on eggshells, without constantly cleaning up other people's messes. That sense of peace, that feeling of safety in your own space, that knowledge that you protected what matters most to you, that's worth fighting for. That's worth standing firm for. That's worth every difficult conversation, every moment of guilt, every accusation of being cruel or selfish. Because it's not cruel to protect yourself. It's not selfish to have boundaries. It's not wrong to refuse to be used. It's self-respect. It's maturity. It's health. And anyone who tells you otherwise is probably someone who benefits from you having no boundaries. My name is Jessica. I'm 37 years old now. I run a successful interior design firm with 8 employees. I'm happily married to a man who respects and adores me. I own a beautiful home that's truly mine. I have healthy relationships with the family members who earned that place in my life through mutual respect and love. And I learned that sometimes choosing yourself over family isn't selfish. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes it's the only way to build the life you deserve. If you're in a similar situation, being taken advantage of by family members, feeling guilty for wanting to protect yourself, wondering if you're being too harsh, please know this: your feelings are valid. Your boundaries matter. Your well-being is important. You have the right to protect your peace, your home, and your life. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You deserve respect, even from family, especially from family. And if they can't give you that respect, you have every right to create distance. Set firm boundaries, or walk away entirely. You are not responsible for fixing adults who refuse to take responsibility for their own lives. You are not cruel for refusing to be a doormat. You are not wrong for protecting what you've worked so hard to build. You are strong. You are worthy. And you deserve peace.